Hello, good morning, good people. This is Kuda from Taniwa Agro. So over the past few weeks, I've had people ask me about ducks, and for various reasons and various situations and various circumstances, their ducks haven't been laying. It has become a very frequently asked question pertaining to ducks. You hear people asking me, why aren't my ducks laying? Madhadha angu asi kukandira, madhadha angu ambomira kukandira, madhadha angu ari kukandira panzvimbo imwe chete. And what do I do about that? So I figured maybe it's something that we need to address and help each other. This video is primarily focused on ducks, but it also helps. I think the same reasons will also apply to even free range chickens, my road runner. They will apply to those chickens as well. The reasons why they're laying. So this is my take on 10 reasons why your ducks aren't laying eggs or have stopped laying. So these are the 10 reasons, 10 major reasons why. I just said 10 major. There's a bit of noise in the background. Interesting. My Peking ducks make a lot of noise, and it's one of the means to one of the means for sexing. Females, separating females from males is the amount of noise that they make. Fun fact, I'm not saying anything, but the story is that the females are louder than the males. It's just interesting. I'm not saying anything, I'm not talking about anything, I'm just saying if you want to identify a female Peking duck, the easiest way to do it is to check on the noise levels. The females are the loudest, the most vocal in that group. Anyway, here's my take on 10 reasons why your ducks aren't laying. The first major reason why your ducks would stop laying is nutrition. Obviously, your ducks need a certain amount of food to be able um, to produce eggs. Eggs are primarily nutrition. You're taking a part of the duck, so if they don't have enough in terms of nutrition, and also just responsible family planning says the amount of food you've got sort of determines the number of offspring you should have. So why should a duck be laying a lot of eggs and not producing offspring when there's not enough feed to sustain that group or that bunch of kids? So your ducks would stop laying if nutrition is not done properly. We'll have feed, and feeding is a separate topic on its own, but and we'll have a video that is specific to feed and sources of feed and how you can produce feed cheaply. But what I'm talking about here is what should make a balanced feed for ducks in order to support laying. The first thing that you need is protein. Obviously, most of the the, the the duck, the egg is actually protein. So most of the egg is protein. You need a lot of protein. What's on the inside of the egg is mostly protein. So you need protein for that to happen. You also need calcium. The shell is mainly built by calcium, so you're going to need a lot of calcium in the diet, or at least a supply of calcium in the diet. And then you obviously need vitamins. It's a stressful endeavor, and you just need that balance of vitamins for them to be able to lay eggs. So let's just briefly just talk about the sources. Your protein sources: soya, your legumes, soya, sunflower, cottonseed. If you can find those, I've seen people sell sunflower cake for about $15 per bag. Then you mix it up with maybe a cereal grain like your maize, your sorghum, wheat, barley, and all those wheat bran. Those are all energy sources, which is also another requirement in your diet. And then you need your calcium sources. Calcium sources are nowhere in the form of limestone grit. Limestone is basically just calcium carbonate. So you can buy that from your local supplier, your local veterinary supplier. You've got calcium grit or calcium stones. That's what other people call them. And then you've got some calcium supplements like Calvitam egg, or a rich calcium source. Natural sources of calcium include your veggies, your kale, red tsunga kovo, lettuce, cabbage. Those have a decent amount of calcium which you can add to the feed for your ducks. So just make sure your ducks have a balanced diet and they have balanced nutrition. 100 grams of feed per duck per day is usually sufficient to make sure they have enough for all their requirements. 100 grams of a good feed mixture. Don't forget to throw in your greens. If you've got farm residue, kitchen waste, sadza, anything, you can throw that in. You never know what they'll pick up from there. We are growing tomatoes at the moment and we're feeding them. Whatever rotten tomatoes we've got, whatever rejects we've got, we're just throwing them in there so that they just pick up vitamins and a bit of potassium from there. That's the first one. The second one is stress. If they're stressed for some reason, you'd find that they would stop laying. Stress comes in the form of changing environments, changing patterns, changing routines. If you open them at a certain time and then you stop and then you're regular about that. I don't know what consistent. You just have to be consistent. Noise in the environment is stressful. Too much handling is also stressful. Yeah, and then stress from lack of feed, stress from other things. Most of these factors are stress causing factors, and they would stop your ducks from laying. So you just need to make sure your ducks, predators as well, will also fall into that group. If there are too many predators around, they'll also stop laying because that's also a stressful situation. The third thing, health and disease. As long as there's disease in your ducks and they're not well looked after, some diseases will not show up, like another infectious coryza or IBD. They might actually show up. Your first symptoms will be a very significant drop in the laying of your ducks, and then everything else will come up later. But having the disease on your site will also would have triggered a significant drop in egg production. So just make sure your environment is clean. One, two, you need to make sure that you're following a very good vaccination program. There are lots of those available from my website, Emma companies that sell feed like Novatech, 5-8. You can just Google one and find one. There's so many of them. When we're going to do a health and disease issue, we're going to share the vaccination program that we use. But you just need to be wary of fowlpox. That's one. There's a lot of water around my ducks, breeding of mosquitoes, so you need to deal with that. Mosquitoes are your main vector. You need to worry about an infectious coryza, Newcastle disease, and all those. Just vaccinate. I know they're strong. They might not even die or anything, but just, especially Muscovies. Muscovies are hardy ducks. That is why we do a lot of them. But just make sure you've taken care of the disease aspect to make sure that the ducks don't stop laying. Then age. The age of your duck is a simple reason why the ducks would not be laying. When they're too young, they don't lay eggs. This is a particular question that we find among people who raise Peking ducks. So a Peking duck will grow to about 90% of its adult weight in about 8 weeks. So by the time it's at 8 weeks, it quacks and it looks like a duck. Looks like a fully grown mature duck. And people sell those at that age only to start laying at 6 months. So by the time it grows to 2 months, it looks fully grown. You look at it, it looks fully grown. But it will start laying at 6 months because that is when it reaches its physiological maturity. So it will not lay until it reaches that age. Muscovies will start laying a bit earlier, maybe about 5 months. And they won't, fortunately, they grow slowly, so they won't look like it until then. So that's one other thing that you need to look at. But by the time they're about 4 or 5 months old, Muscovies look like they're ready to lay, but they're not necessarily at point of lay. So you need to watch out for that as well. You know the age of the ducks that you're buying, you know the age of the ducks that you expect to start laying, and that will then put that question away. Breed. Some breeds of ducks, and I'll throw in geese in this equation, will not lay as many eggs as others. Muscovies will lay about 150 to 200 eggs per year. Peking ducks will lay about 100 to 150. And then you've got Indian runners that lay a lot of eggs, maybe close to 200 eggs per year. They're just different laying capabilities among these breeds. So what that means is that as long as for as long as the breed is not able to lay more than 200 eggs, at some point it's going to stop. So the breed of duck will also determine how much eggs they will lay. And then we've also got nesting conditions. if you don't provide good nests, you might not get your ducks laying, or they'll start trying to create their own nesting situations. um, Such scenarios will be maybe another kuviga mazai, they start hiding in funny places and start laying there, which you might not pick up. Predators will just continuously eat those eggs because they're not necessarily in the laying space in question. So you need to provide good private and quiet nesting areas like the ones that we're showing in the picture right now. The ones that we've got, those are our nesting conditions. Ari mudanga, right inside mudanga, we've put in sand in the nesting boxes so that they do a bit of digging. We've created a private space, covered, and then covered the nests on top. That also helps to just, encourage them to lay, since that environment is good. And then as soon as your ducks hatch, make sure you put some huku dust, some malathion, on the nests anenge abandonwa, to make sure there are no pests and parasites growing on those nests, because that will also stop your ducks from laying. Temperature extremes, which we don't necessarily have in Zim, but sometimes you find extremes of temperatures suddenly when it gets too hot, like in your October months, followed by a very cold spell. That might actually affect your laying conditions. I'm not going to dwell too much on that because I believe it's not our biggest factor, it's a very small factor. The next thing that we want to talk about is broodiness. So a duck has been brooding eggs, has been brooding chicks and trying to raise them. It will concentrate on raising those chicks until such a time as those chicks have come of age. So as long as your ducks are looking after chicks, it is highly likely that they will not be laying eggs. The way to go around that is to create a nursery, like the one that I'm showing in the picture. What we've got as a nursery is a smaller version of a danga, so to speak. It's a smaller version of a duck run or a fowl run, where the mothers that have just hatched their hatchlings get to stay with their young. It allows us to feed the chicks separately and look after them separately. Our pond is quite big, so it also prevents chicks from drowning. At the same time, it allows us to win. By the time, within a week of being hatched, we know that the ducklings are able to look after themselves. We also put in infrared lighting for heat, and then we just remove the mother and separate from the chick so that she quickly gets back to laying. That way we shorten the breeding cycle of the ducks. So you need to watch out for that as well. The other one is technical. The last two are technical. Lighting, you need to provide 14 hours of light. So you need to notice at what time is the sun setting, or at what time does it get dark, and at what time do you get light. As long as you're not getting more than 14 hours of light, like in winter, your ducks will stop laying. So you need a daylight sort of bulb to put in mudanga, especially during the winter months. And then if you can program it to switch on, or you can switch it on at around 5:30 a.m. in the evening, and then switch it off maybe around 8, just to add a bit, two more hours or so of light, to just allow your laying cycle to continue. That helps. It's a smaller factor pertaining to Muscovies, but if your ducks are that sensitive, yes, it will be good to add that. It will help optimize the lighting situation. Then the last and 10th thing is molting. Every duck at some point gets to shed its feathers and then regrow new ones. It happens at a certain point in the year. It will affect your laying for about 2 to 3 months. So it's a natural process that happens. The factors that you can factor in will only help reduce molting stress, but it will not stop molting from happening. So as long as all your ducks were hatched at the same time from the same month, they are going to molt at the same time. So you're going to experience a 3-month drop every year where your ducks will not be laying eggs. So try to get ducks, if you're starting out, try to get from multiple sources, or at least at different times of the year. So if you're stocking up your ducks, don't stock all of them at once. Buy your ducks, some in March, some in May, some in August, and then that helps to make sure that your molting cycles are a bit different, and then it helps make your laying of eggs consistent. So that has been my take on the 10 reasons why your ducks aren't laying. The beautiful thing about it is there's so many ways of just making sure your ducks are laying. It's more to do with consistency, security, and a good feeding program that helps just make sure your ducks are laying at optimal. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and thank you. The next video we're going to focus on feed sources and what you can do on the farm to make sure you've got a protein component. Bodybuilders know this. The most hard target to meet when it comes to feed is the protein requirement. As long as you've got your protein figured out most of the time, it's much easier to raise your duck. Thank you so much for watching.